Hello and welcome back to Profit Grow Exit, the podcast where we help MSP and IT service providers build more profitable businesses, create sustainable growth, and ultimately design a business that gives you an exit plan. I'm Abi Walsh with Encore Strategic, and today's episode is all about what it looks like to actually grow an MSP without losing what makes it special in the first place. Let's be honest, most MSPs start the same way. You're great at tech, you start helping people, and before you know it, you've built a business. But scaling that business, that's a completely different skill set. So today, I am joined by Atul Bhagat, founder and CEO of Bay Solutions. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Abby. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So let's start. Give us a quick intro. Who are you? What's your company? And what do you do?
Sure. My name's Atul Bhagat, as you said. I am the president and CEO of Bay Solutions, founded in 2009. So we've been in business for 17 years now. We service mainly the DC area, but we do have clients now across the country as well as internationally. So we are supporting people across multiple regions. Um, we have a primary focus, I'd say about 40 to 50% in legal. And that's kind of where my original technology background started, was in law firms. So that's kind of why it's become a niche for us in how we operate and how well we work with them because of my experience with them. So yeah, that's a quick rundown on where we are today.
Awesome. Now, you said in our previous conversation you did like management for IT in law firms. What led you to actually start your business back in 2009?
Yeah, so great question. So, when I had done that for about 8 years, and I went through the whole process. I started in user support, went into networking team, and then I kind of got into IT management. And as I was going through that, I'm like, okay, where does this really end up? Where do I end up as a professional? What is this going to look like? And I felt like there was more to be had, if you will, from going out on your own and doing it versus working for a law firm as a CIO. And so I said, I want to try and do this on my own and consult to smaller firms, and help them kind of apply the same concepts and technologies that the larger firms were using and allow them to kind of be competitive without having to be this massive firm. Right. And so it first started, actually, I went and worked with another company that focused strictly on law firms. But they were essentially a consulting business, but they were actually what I call pre-MSP, because they were basically doing the same concept, but none of us called it MSP back then.
Right.
And so they were kind of in that model. But one thing I saw that I kind of didn't love was everyone was being put into the same process, if you will. It was, oh, you're a law firm. This is exactly what you're going to get. This is how we're going to service you. There's no room for, we're going to change it up, or you should do things we're open to how you need to operate, and we're going to cater the technology around you. It was more of, no, this is what we're going to do because this is what makes sense from a support standpoint. So it was always, at least to me, it felt like the approach was, well, we're going to do it our way because it makes our lives easier as a support system versus what the firm really needed. And that's kind of what triggered my decision to start on my own, was that I wanted to be able to give law firms the ability to truly drive technology in a way that serviced them versus us servicing versus the other way around. And
Yeah.
so that was my whole, mantra, if you will, when we first started, was we truly want to listen to what they're trying to accomplish and give them suggestions and solutions based on what they're trying to do. And we still live by that today, in that we always tell our clients, there's not a software package you're going to bring to us that we're going to say, no, we're not going to support. We will tell you openly if we don't know about it or we're not familiar with it, but we're never going to say no. And it's not going to be like, oh, you're not using this vendor, that's our preferred vendor, we can't support it kind of approach. We do not believe in
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
So obviously you started with a strong focus in the legal space coming from working in law firms. Was there anything else that made that niche the right place to begin for you?
Um, well, there is the fact that I am actually, I'm from a family of lawyers, if you will. My dad was a lawyer, so I
Ooh.
kind of understand the psyche of a law of a lawyer better than most do, and so I think that's why it was such a natural fit for me to know how they operate. Their last minute people. there's deadlines. You got to understand the stress levels. You got to be able to respond in a way that's constructive. So I think with that, that allowed me to also be more understanding of how they do that, and I'm able to explain that as well to to my staff as I'm training them up and understanding what they can do. And in
Absolutely.
that sense, yeah,
The MSP that I worked for before I worked for Encore had a niche in the legal space as well, and the CEO came out of law enforcement. So I feel
yeah,
like all the folks, all the MSPs who focus on legal and lawyers tend to have some sort of tie to it. How has
exactly.
that niche and evolved over time as you guys have grown, and what else have you brought in?
I mean, obviously, we've gotten more law firms. That's a given. They all talk to each other. There's definitely a referral network out there. They'll, so and so will call one partner up and say, "Hey, who do you use for IT?" And next, thing you know, we're getting a call. So I mean, obviously, those happen. But then in in that same retrospect, we're also getting their clients who are not law firms. And that's kind of what's driven our growth from that standpoint, where we stepped out of the law firm world and got more clients outside of it. Because if you would have talked to me, say 10 years ago or even 12 years ago, I would have said all of our clients were law firms at that time. It changed as we continued our relationships and, they started referring us to their clients, and then that kind of spread down that way. And that's kind of how that growth changed.
And as far as an overall picture of your business today, what do you look like in terms of team size and growth?
Yeah, so we're now at 7 full-time employees in the office. We're targeting about 2.5 million this year. That's our goal, although that could change. We are seeing some economic changes, so we're not sure we're actually going to realistically hit that, but that was our goal walking into this year. Um, and we're continuing. We've had year over year growth since the day we started, and we're hoping to continue that pattern at least from that standpoint. And for us, customer satisfaction is everything. So that is a big pride for us. So if you notice, Google's a big thing for us, keeping that high rating on there. We're constantly using Crewwho for customer feedback just to make sure that we're constantly engaged with our clients to know, are they truly satisfied with the services that we're providing.
Absolutely. Those Google reviews are important these days. We were just having that
Only way to
conversation.
go to work. That's the
Oh,
only
yeah.
way.
One of the things that you mentioned in our first conversation that really stood out to me was your commitment to avoiding a cookie cutter approach. Where
Yes.
does that philosophy come from, and what does that mean to you?
So, kind of back to where I was saying about treating every client the same and saying you have to use these technologies and that's it, or we're not supporting you kind of approach to things. And that's just not conducive to small business. Every business has different needs, different approaches, how they want to approach a situation or manage their data is different. And we have to, if we're truly going to be in a place where we can support them, then we have to be kind of flexible from that standpoint. And I think a lot of MSPs, especially as they grow, get into that habit of we're going to start building these, uh, you know, standardizations within the organization of what we're willing to support.
Mhm.
And that starts to kind of make it harder for the client. Because when I tell you, when we get calls from clients that are looking to move from an existing MSP, more often than not, it's from a post M&A situation. So they got bought by a big MSP. They've lost their personal touch. And it's always the same message. I had a great relationship before they got bought. Literally every time that's what I hear. It was
Yeah.
great until they got bought. And then they got bought. They got put into a bigger MSP. They're now being told they need to use certain things or do things a certain way, and that is where their frustration kicks in because they're not getting that personalized approach that they originally bought into. And that is something that, when we talk about what we want to do and what we want to stay, um, where we want to stay as a company, that's the one thing that Sonia, who's my wife and our COO, um, we do not want to change. We don't want to ever lose that. And we always tell ourselves if we get to the growth point that we don't have that personal touch and we're not truly listening to the client first, then we need to relook at how we're doing our business.
What's your plan to protect that personal touch as you grow? Do you have one in place already, or is that something that's kind of growing with the culture of the
I think
company?
it's gonna, yeah, I think it's gonna grow organically. I mean, we have some thoughts out there that, we're just gonna essentially become more boutique
Mhm.
in what we're offering. Our rates will probably change based on that. So then the clients that can appreciate it will pay for it, and the ones that don't kind of
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
And I think that's kind of, and honestly, I think the industry is going this way. There's gonna be a big split. And if I was to look at the MSP market right now, I think that's where we're seeing a big split. You're gonna see the common MSP, and then you're gonna see the niche boutique MSP that's truly driving the technology, driving the concepts, but giving their clients that personal approach that they need. And the clients that are slowly growing, that are still growing, they need that kind of true CIO approach to things and need someone kind of pushing them to help their business grow. I think that's where we're seeing that kind of split occur right now.
I think that's a really good point, and I would dare say that at least when I notice it among our MSP clients, it really comes down to culture and how
Yeah,
owners are sharing the culture and including their teams into that culture as well. Because it really, I mean, your teams at the end of the day are the one giving the service, so they need
exactly.
to be clued in for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you shared some really unique ways that you guys stay engaged with your clients, thoughtful, non-traditional touch points. Can we talk a little bit about that and where that idea
Absolutely.
came from?
So yeah, so well, the idea came from Sonia, not from me. I can't take credit. So when she joined back in 2019, um, she kind of came in from her own consulting experience because she worked for a big consulting firm here in the area, and she had actually worked with MSPs as the on the HR side. And so her approach was, these are the things that I don't love. We need to make sure we're not doing them. And so, that was one part. And so we had a bunch of SOPs come out and all that, and we did that. But then the other part was, she's like, we really need to be more deliberate in how we're communicating with our clients. And it can't just be about communicating with them once a year on Christmas and dropping off a gift. It can't be the only time we see them is during an SBR, when you're talking about things they need to fix or things that there needs to be other touch points there where they're just being acknowledged, and we're just showing that we really just generally appreciate their business and their trust. And and that's kind of how you drive your referrals, as well as you're kind of staying top of mind. And it's just another strategy around that. So we try to, I should say, sometimes we don't get there because something happens or we're busy in that quarter, but we try to do quarterly gifts, if you will, of some sort. And they don't have to be big extravagant things, but sometimes they're, it's St. Patty's Day, let's go drop off a bottle of Jameson and shot glasses to the clients, like something like that. Or we went on a summer vacation to Italy, and most of our clients knew we were in Italy for 3 weeks. So we came back, and at the end of the summer, we gave everyone limoncello, and we had that dropped off. So it's sometimes it's related to something with us. Sometimes it's a holiday thing. I think the first time we ever did it, which was probably one of our most successful ones, we found a local bakery here in Arlington that makes fresh hot apple pies every day. And so we literally, during the fall, went and picked up fresh apple pies for every client and dropped them off. And literally, they were still hot when we were
That's
delivering them.
awesome. I'm sure that
Well,
went over very
yeah.
well.
Yeah. So it's like, it's just that personal touch. And then even when it comes to referrals, how are you thanking your clients for those referrals? And it's like little things, like people will say, "Oh, let's just give them a gift card or something," and I'm like, "No, it's very impersonal."
Yeah.
Um, so it's trying to understand that specific person who gave you the referral and kind of giving them something based on that. So like, I think we had one, she's a mom of young kids like we are, and we're like, we're going to get her a massage. So we got her a massage to a local spa. A couple of our lawyers that have I got them nice Mont Blanc pens, because we know that lawyers love their pens, and especially ones that they're signing contracts with. So it's
Mhm.
kind of being more deliberate. And then like another one, um, I still remember, he's a big wine drinker, so I got him literally a giant Magnum Silver Oak Winery Magnum for him, for thanking him for a referral. So it's just kind of, what do we
Just
do?
going
Kind of,
that little extra step, yeah.
and showing that you know them as people, not as just clients. And I think
Mhm.
that's the key, is getting to know your clients is everything. And so like,
Absolutely.
even when I go visit clients now and I stop by just to stop by, or if I'm got pulled into something and I'm talking to them, I just, it's just striking that conversation, having that personal conversation. Look, how's everything going with you outside of here? Let's not just talk about work. Let's talk about other things and really have that personal relationship with every client.
Now, what impact have you guys seen from leaning into this kind of experience for your clients and your
I think there's
prospects?
definitely a sense of loyalty that is
Mhm.
there with the clients. I mean, when we look at our statistics, we've lost in the course of 17 years, we've lost two clients, and never has it been because of service. It's always been because they had a business change. I think we lost one because we were actually supporting them all the way from LA, and they realized they just wanted someone local. That, I mean, there's only so much I could do at that point.
Right.
But like, so I think there's a sense of, because you've built that personal relationship, it goes beyond just a business transaction. And so you tend to work together if there's an issue. Like, I'll give you an example. One of our clients, they're going through some tough times, as we're going to hear from clients. And, they reached out and said, we need to cut back some things. But I went in and sat down with them. And the first thing was said was, we are not looking to cut you out. That is not even a discussion. We just need some help because our expenses are X and we need to get to Y. And so
Mhm.
we sat down and we went through their entire contract. I looked at places where I could cut costs for them on their stuff. And then I also cut some of our costs on services right now because they've been a client of ours literally for 16 years.
Yeah.
And my response to them was, look, you were there for us when we first started, and you're going through a little bit of a tough time. We're gonna back you up. And that's what we're here for. And it's
That is
being able to do that,
definitely,
right? And
yeah, that's the way to build
it's,
loyalty.
and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to cut my prices across the board or anything, but sometimes you have to do that for a little while to, say, hey,
And I'm
look, I
sure
know.
it'll come back tenfold when they're in a
Exactly.
better position for sure.
Exactly. And
Mm,
and you're like, you know
what
what?
comes around
I'm
goes
gonna help
around.
you now. I'm gonna help you now, and it'll work. And it may not be from them.
Mhm,
I might get something through a referral or through, whatever. And that's kind of how I look at it. We're paying it forward,
mhm.
if you will. And
It's one
I
of
just
our core
want to,
values here at
yep,
Encore is help first, profit after.
yeah,
It's,
exactly. And so,
we're gonna
and
we're
things,
gonna help you get out of the hole first, and then we'll figure
right.
out the rest.
Yeah, and partnership's a big one for us. And so if we can't be a good partner with our client, then we are failing. And it's that simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, let's jump into a little bit about community because you've been involved in peer groups and you even helped build an MSP community. So,
Yep.
what role has that played in your growth as a business owner?
Yeah. So I look at it from kind of a retrospective approach of what changed for me the most. And it started in about 2016. Um, I started going to more events, and I met a group of people who, this is, I call it an unofficial peer group because none of us were ever part of a formal peer group, but we met at events, and they started to kind of almost, how do I say this, mentor
Yeah.
me in a sense, because I was a very young MSP, kind of like we talked about. You were a tech, you were doing some support, and next thing you know, you own a business. And it's kind of the thing. In the first few years, you're doing it on your own. You don't even realize you have staff, and then all of a sudden now you have staff to worry about and all that stuff. So that's kind of how it started. And so in 2015, 2016 timeframe, that's when I got more engaged in being at events, because for the first 5 years, my head was down. I was not looking at going to MSP events or anything. I was just like, nope, I'm not spending money on that kind of stuff. I'm here to grow my business. Little did I know that that actually would help you grow your business. But that's the thing, right? So you start to get mentored and you start to understand how people are operating, and they look at your stuff and they're saying, hey, have you done this? Have you tried this? And you start to realize that there's a knowledge share that's available. Now, to have that knowledge share, there is a natural, you have to let your walls, you got to break your walls down. You got to let your guard down. I think innately as MSPs, we fail in the fact that we look at everyone as competition.
Mhm.
This is an industry that is extremely competitive, and we all look at each other and go, well, that guy's down the street from me. I can't tell him anything. And truth be told, that's not true. There is enough business to be had in every major market. I'm not going to speak to small markets because I'm not in one, but I do strongly believe, at least in the major markets, and from what I've researched, even in the small ones, there's enough business to be had that no one should ever really truly treat themselves as competition, if you will. We all do things differently, and the clients that want things done a certain way will come to you.
Mhm.
And so you need to respect that, and you need to be able to do that. Now, in addition to that, we're also in a unique market that's not regulated. We're not being held accountable. There's no standards, and that actually will backfire on us as an industry
Yeah.
in the long. I know there's attempts to get us there with Trustmark and all those other things, but the truth is, right now, the only accountability we have is each other,
Mhm.
and so we need to be able to do that, and we need to be able to do that openly. And so that's kind of what drove my desire to be more in the community and be more impactful in the communities to give back. Because one, I took so much from the community in those first few years that I was a part of it, really, in from 2016 to like 2020. And then for me now, it's at a stage where I'm like, you know what? I've been doing this for so long. I do consider myself a veteran, if you will, in the industry now. Um, and I want to give that back. I don't want to hold that information to myself because, if I knew what I knew today, 15 years ago, we'd probably be even bigger than we are today. Or
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
from a revenue standpoint, not necessarily in size, but we'd be doing even more, right? And
Yeah.
so that's where I look at it. I'm like, I just want to be able to help everyone else out. And it's even something as small as, we take on a new client and we notice certain things that are not to snuff, if you will, in my opinion, to standardizations or standard security practices. I will call the CEO of the other MSP and be like, hey, did you know that this was set up this way? Was it intentional or was it something that the client demanded? And kind of have that open conversation because if one MSP gets breached in the area and it becomes a news thing, guess what? We all look bad.
That's true.
It is not going to just be them. You're not going to be able to say, oh, they're the ones who do it wrong. No, everyone's going to get scared of doing their work with an MSP. And then there's next thing you know, everyone's like, oh, let's bring your IT back in the house. That's a whole nother problem. So
Yeah.
we have to look out for each other. We generally do. And we have to make sure we're holding each other to a standard.
Yeah. And I want to just circle back to what you were saying about the co-opetition kind of stuff before, because you are in a major market right outside of
Mhm.
DC. Now,
Yep.
myself, when I worked for an MSP that I worked for, I was a part of the leadership team for 10 years. We're in little old New Hampshire, where our closest major city is Boston. And then we have,
Right.
Maine, Vermont, and all this. And we were actually in a peer group with at least one, if not two other MSPs from New Hampshire. So,
Wow.
if we can make that work in New Hampshire, that's,
Exactly. Exactly.
there's definitely, and they were, very different MSPs with different focuses and that kind of thing. And of course there is, competition, but I know our peer groups, we make sure that two competing MSPs aren't in the same
Right.
group. And
Well,
I
and
think
it's
that
how
that
you
shows.
approach it, right? It's
Absolutely.
I think competition's even one of those things. It's all about how you're handling it.
Well,
Like
that's
I'm
why I
not
use the
walking.
word
Yeah.
co-opetition, because
Right.
there's
Exactly.
a collaboration along with the competition. And I do
Exactly.
think that the MSP community is uniquely already kind of there sometimes.
We get
You
there.
know,
We have our moments. I'll put it
yeah,
that way.
yeah.
We
But
can
you
be an
talk to some people in
extremely
some other industries and they're like, "You do what?" And you talk
yeah.
about numbers and
Exactly.
metrics?
Yeah.
Like,
We're in extremely
uh,
collaborating industry, but then
yes.
we're not,
Yeah,
and we'll undercut each other for no reason, right?
true. Yeah,
And so it's like it's this real delicate balance,
it is.
because and I think it's a maturity there too.
Yeah.
There is a operational maturity to being open and vulnerable. When you're first starting, you do not want to share anything, but you want all of the information, but you're not necessarily open to sharing it. And I think that can shoot you in the foot.
Yeah.
And so I
Yep.
hope that, as we continue along these journeys, that these younger MSPs, as they're starting up, can be more open from day one, be more vulnerable, and say, hey, look, I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying to go after this niche market. And I don't know much about it, but I really want to do this. What does that entail? Kind of conversation, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, looking back, to when you started your MSP, what has been the biggest challenge in starting and then scaling your business?
I think, well, I'd probably say there's two. Our two biggest challenges is one, personnel, when to
Mhm.
bring someone on, and then keeping your employees. I mean, it's hard. And in our market, it's even more challenging because we're competing against the federal government. We're competing against a lot of big consulting firms. We're competing against Amazon now. You name it, we're competing. And that makes it very challenging from an MSP perspective because there's only so much we can do to retain as a small company, right? So we try from that standpoint, we try and give intangibles, if you will,
Mhm.
um, that are outside of just money, whether it's making sure we have a strong benefits package. One of the things we did a few years ago is we implemented unlimited PTO because we wanted to set ourselves apart. Um, and that was a big thing for us was what can we do to our give to our staff um, aside from just a paycheck that allows them to feel like they're wanted and they're appreciated and all that. And it's things like
Mhm.
we do quarterly team building exercises after hours. We do weekly lunches that we pay for the staff, and they pick their food and they order it, and it's all covered. So it's little things like that, right? And then from the other side is obviously, I think every business deals with this is adding more clients. What do you do? You know, referrals are the best. We all love them. They're the best. They're hot leads, 95% conversion rate on most referrals, I believe is like the industry standard. I might be a little high, but I mean, usually when you get a referral, you can close it pretty easily.
Yeah, I
Yeah. But what do you do when that funnel dries, right? That is the question of the day. And how does a business continue to grow and what are the strategies that they need to employ from a marketing strategy? And we've gone through the gambit. We've gone through multiple different iterations of marketing. Um, and we're hoping that we're on the right path right now, and we'll see. Obviously, digital is the way to go. I think
Yep.
it's the world of snail mail marketing is gone. COVID proved that when companies stopped being in the office. So that changed how you market.
A lot don't even have offices anymore.
Exactly. So how you market, obviously SEO is a huge thing. And now apparently the next level of marketing is AI marketing. And what does that look like? Like, and apparently you have to code and submit data differently than when you had to do for SEO. Now you got to do it for AI. So that way
Mhm.
ChatGPT tells people that you want to go to base solutions for IT support in Virginia. Like, and so
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing. Training out now, apparently there's a whole thing of training LLMs to spit out your company name instead of someone else's.
It's definitely gonna
Wow.
be an interesting hurdle as someone who sits squarely in the marketing and sales seat and coaches
Yeah.
MSPs on marketing and sales. The AI nuances that are coming out are gonna be something that is a learning curve for all of us, even those of us who have been in the industry for a long time because it's new.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something that we're still learning. We're still trying to figure out. And, I think I'd say the biggest challenge and the ongoing challenge is that how do you bring in more business and making sure, and I think this is the other key thing is not every client that knocks on your door is the right client for you.
Yes. Pumpkin plan over my head over here, this
Exactly.
side.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
And that is also something that is maturity
mhm.
to get to that point where you can actually look a client in their face and say, "You're not the right fit for us."
Absolutely, absolutely.
Um, and how you do that is also important, of course. And being deliberate and careful in your words and all that. Like, I'll give you an example. We had a client, things got tough for them. They weren't paying their bills anymore. Like it was like pulling teeth. And we finally got to the point. I called the CEO up and said, "Look, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't support you. I financially can't do it. It's me literally fronting money basically for you to stay operational." Um, and he's like, "I understand, completely understand." We cut them off and we stayed in touch. And I still helped them on occasion when they would call and I would bill them hourly. And then finally, after he cleaned up his operations and obviously they shrunk significantly, came back to me a year and a half later and said, "Hey, we're ready for full IT support again." So it's all about how you're handling that, right? And
Yeah.
being respectful of that situation and all that. And I think that's important, and how we
That
communicate with our clients and all that too.
that's definitely a powerful story.
Yeah.
Now, how has your approach to operations changed as your business has grown?
Every way possible. I mean,
Question?
I mean, Sonia's probably the better one to answer this, because she'll joke around that she walked into a frat party when she started in 2019.
I should have her
Um,
on an episode.
you should have a totally different one, and I guarantee you that'll be beneficial for a whole nother level.
Oh.
But she came in and really was like, you can't, if you're gonna grow to to the direction you want to, you have to change your mindset. You have to change how you're approaching things. You have to hire people for the long term, kind of thing. I had a very different approach to hiring, because I was like, these people leave all the time. I'm just going to hire a bunch of, younger part-time people initially and all that. But then there was a commitment issue, and there was all of that. And she's like, you gotta go all in. You got to invest in your people. And so we did. And it's been a big turning point. We've continued to grow because of that. And we continue to add people based on that, because we're truly looking for people that fit our core values.
Mhm.
I think that's the other thing, is we do not hire for skill. We hire for fit. And so I don't need to have the Fortinet engineer who can program a switch in 10 minutes but can't talk to a client.
Right.
Um, I need people who are truly bought into the core values that we have established, who understand how we want to operate and want to be a part of that growth, and understand that that's how we want to work and how we want to operate. We believe in a family type environment, and they all need to be bought into that. And I think that's the biggest change from an operational standpoint, has been everyone now is held accountable to buy into that before they're even hired. So it's like, we go through our series of hiring process. So we have, I think, 3 to 4 interviews usually.
Mhm.
So Sonia will do a phone screen. They'll come in, meet with both of us. Then if we like them, we will go through a technical interview at that point. And also they will meet with the team separately outside of the office. So for coffee or something completely non-technical, guard down, very casual, go meet with the team. And then we go and then we solicit that feedback from the team saying, hey, how do you think they're going to fit in here?
I love that.
Um,
Now, you've mentioned your wife, Sonia, a few times, and she joined the business, but she had a career before. So it was kind of a
yeah.
shift. How did that
Yeah.
transition come about for you guys?
So, it is one of those things. I think every family goes through it. When we first met, she was a teacher. She moved to DC, did not go into education per se right away, but then she went and started recruiting teachers. So that's kind of how she started working here in DC. And then after that, she pivoted and did recruitment for a large consulting firm. So that's kind of how she kind of her career. And then she got to a point where she's like, I want to be present more at home, but I don't want to lose my career. I need to be a part of something. And I was looking at our growth at base, and I'm like, I need help. I knew I needed operational help, because I was still so knee deep in to the technical side that there was only so much I could do from an operational side. And, I think a lot of us struggle with that, MSPs do, because we like I said, we're techs by nature. We like the technical side. Nobody wants to deal with the HR side or the management side of things. And so I was fortunate. I was able to bring her in and say, hey, look, these are things that I need help with. And she took them on right away and said, okay, I'll figure it out. She didn't necessarily have all the experience there, but she took on that role and said, you know what, I'm gonna figure this stuff out. But one of the key things she did is, so she's a CO slash what we call CXO, which is client experience officer.
Mhm.
One of the main things she said was, I want to drive the client experience. I want to know that every client will walk out on the street and say, Base Solutions does XYZ the best because of what they offer us. And every client experiences that experience always. And so that's kind of where it kind of came about. Happened right
Mhm.
before COVID, which the timing was very interesting. But it worked out. And so, it's worked very well for us. Most people be like, "Well, I don't know how you work with your significant other," and it works for us because we do kind of sit in two islands in a lot of ways. I handle the technical side with our team. She handles the client experience and operational side, and then we come together and kind of just do that. But we don't bump heads very often.
That
So I
was
think
my
that
next question was how do you make it work? But
it
no,
literally is that's how.
I
Is
think
we don't really intersect that often. Um, Obviously, there are times where we do, and times where we're having conversations, and we're like, "No, this is not how it goes. This is how it goes," and we talk through it. And I think that's a key thing. It's communication is everything. That's it within the business with anyone of your staff. Open communication is very important. Being as open as possible is I'd say almost the secret sauce to growth. If your employees know what's happening, they're going to be more bought in. And so you need to make sure you're staying open and clear. Like, hey, look, this is what we're looking at. Like we have a weekly check in individually, but then we also have a team meeting every week. And in that team meeting, we're talking about who our leads are, where they are in the pipeline. I mean,
Mhm.
there's nothing there. If a client might be leaving, they know. We give them a heads up, like, hey, I don't know if this client's going to stick around. Like, we don't know. Like, we can't tell or something. Like, we have those open conversations with them.
No, I love that, and I think that it's an interesting topic talking about working with your spouse or just family in general.
Sure.
It's no secret that my dad and I are the
Yeah.
ones who run Encore, along
Sure.
with one of his lifetime long friends' daughters, who's kind of like another daughter. So
There you go. Yeah.
it's a fun situation, but it can
Well,
definitely. I think like you said, some people from the outside looking in go, "How the heck do you make that work?" But
there's good and
we
bad,
all have our
right?
strengths, we all have our
Exactly.
weaknesses, and, having some self-awareness is pivotal,
Very
I think.
important. I think, yeah, and I think there's pros and cons to it too, right? When we look at it as business owners, especially if you started off alone,
Yeah,
having that ability to trust someone else with every little aspect of your business is very hard.
yeah,
Um, but if there's one person you're going to trust, it's your own family, whether
hopefully.
it be your wife or yeah, hopefully. You would hope you trust your wife or you trust your child, your daughter or your son or whoever that may be. Although I told my kids Base Solutions is not theirs. But just in case I clarified that with them, but yeah, I was
I
like,
did
that's
I
never going to
did work for my dad's MSP as well, but, that got sold to someone else, but
There
this
you go.
I came into
Yeah.
with my own experience.
So there you go. But and I think there's something to be said to having that trust partner.
Yeah.
Um, in a business, you need to have that one person that you can say, I can tell you every little aspect of this business, whether it's the numbers, whether it's the finances, all of that kind of stuff, everything about it. And making sure that you can have that open conversation and dialogue about things when things are not going well or things are going well. And being able to bounce those types of conversation topics off of that person is it's beneficial.
So, looking ahead for your company, what does growth look like for you over the next few years?
So we're hoping to continue our growth. As I mentioned, we're not looking to exit by any means at this time. I say at this time, unless someone waved a massive check at me, and I was like, "Well,
Um,
maybe we should think about this."
Sean always says you
Um,
don't pick the exit day
no,
picks you.
it picked you. As of now, I have no aspirations to exit. I love what we do. I love how we're servicing our clients, and hope that we can continue to do so over the next, 10 years, I'd say. But we'll see what's out there. I mean, the market is changing rapidly. So you just never know what that could look like. And so I'm hesitant to be like, this is definitely the case. We're not going to do anything. You never know. But we're very proud of what we've built and how we've built it, and we hope to continue that momentum over the next few years.
There are a lot of shifts coming in this industry. I think shifting more toward consultative roles for MSPs, as well
Yeah.
as the AI changes and client expectations. How are you positioning yourself and your business to stay ahead of that shift?
I think you just kind of almost started the conversation right there. The AI, how do you position yourself to not just be help desk? I think
Right.
is the key. I think it's been easy in some ways for MSPs. We can just say, "Oh, we're here to support you," and we just put these tools in, and that's it. Um, I think now more than ever, we have to become partners with our clients in that they're coming to us with thoughts on strategy, and you're helping them with that strategy, especially when it comes to AI. If you're not ahead of that conversation, you're not having those conversations with them about AI and what the benefits are and what the risks are and how to use it effectively and what's the best option for their business. Because yes, Copilot, like for instance, we're pretty much 95%. We tell our clients Copilot's the best way to go. You're already in 365. It's the easiest thing to go. You're going to have that small number it's not right for.
Right.
Um, uh, Great example. We have a development company. They don't need Copilot. They need Claude. I mean, there's no other way around it. But my question was, okay, you guys want to use Claude? And they were very adamant. We had just brought them on actually recently. And they were like, oh, yeah, we use Claude. And my first question was, please tell me it's an enterprise plan.
Please tell me you
And
pay for it.
and we are an owner and we become an admin. And so we can administer it and we can keep an eye on it and make sure things are set up the way they need to be to make sure your information is. And I use the keyword somewhat because I'm always nervous to walk around saying your data is protected when it comes to AI.
Yeah.
We don't know enough
The
yet.
wild, wild west right now.
We don't know enough to sit there and promise data is secure in AI.
Yeah.
And if anyone is saying that, please stop because it's not the right information. We're not telling our clients the truth. They need to assume there is a some degree of risk in everything we're putting in, whether it's an internal AI agent or like Copilot or anything that's quote unquote secure, or you're putting it directly into ChatGPT or Gemini or something like that. You have to assume your data is going to get out there somehow.
Absolutely. Now, if you could go back to 2009 and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
There's so much. Be open, be vulnerable, get out there, find a peer group. Um,
Yeah,
it's amazing how much you can learn from other businesses, and
absolutely.
coaches for that matter. You know, and it's funny, I talk about our marketing journey and our whole journey as a whole from a business. And despite some things where we're like, wow, I can't believe we did that, we still learn stuff along that journey from each and every step from different people and different experiences. And so I think it is so important to just open up and really make yourself a part of the community. Because this community, like we said, is while cooperation is probably the best way to put it. While we do see things as, you know, competitive, we are also very open to helping each other out. And it may not be the MSPs down the road might not be the ones talking to you, but the guys across the country will. And there are a lot of us out there that are open to having those conversations and truly coaching people and helping them.
I love that. I think this was a great conversation and such an important reminder that growth doesn't have to mean just becoming another cookie cutter MSP. I think
Right.
for me, there were a bunch of good takeaways here. And if you're listening and you got value from this episode, please make sure that you're subscribed and don't miss the next one. We drop new episodes every other week, and they're focused on real stories and real strategies from real people that are actually out doing this work. So thank you so much, Atul, for joining me
Thank
today.
you.
And
I
yeah,
appreciate
we
it.
will look forward to talking to you again soon.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.